For years, you've been told to avoid this one food if you want to lose belly fat. But a 2026 study just proved the opposite. In fact, people who started eating it daily saw their stubborn belly fat begin to shrink, even without changing their workouts. And the reason why has nothing to do with calories, and everything to do with how your body stores fat. My name is Dr. Ava Harper. I've spent over 15 years working at the intersection of nutritional biochemistry and metabolic medicine. I've consulted with thousands of patients, men and women ranging from their 30s to their 70s, who came to me exhausted, frustrated, and convinced that their belly fat was simply a willpower problem. It wasn't. It never is. And once we addressed what was actually happening inside their bodies, the results were nothing short of remarkable. So today, I want to share what the latest science is telling us, and more importantly, what I've seen work, again and again, in real people living real lives. Let's talk about what most people get wrong, because I think this is where the real damage happens. For years, and I mean decades, the messaging around belly fat has been some version of this: eat less, move more, and cut the fat. You've heard it. You've probably tried it. And if you're watching this video right now, there's a good chance it didn't work the way you hoped. Maybe it worked for a little while, and then the weight crept right back. Maybe it didn't work at all, and you started to wonder if something was fundamentally broken inside you. Here's what I want you to hear: nothing is broken. You were just given the wrong map. The eat less, move more model treats belly fat like it's a simple math equation: calories in, calories out, done. But belly fat, particularly visceral fat, the deep fat that wraps around your organs, is not just an energy storage issue. It is an inflammatory and hormonal issue. And when you treat a hormonal problem with a calorie-counting solution, you get frustration, muscle loss, a slowed metabolism, and a body that fights back harder than ever. I've seen patients who were eating 1,200 calories a day and exercising 5 times a week who could not shift the fat around their midsection. And I've seen patients who made 1 or 2 targeted dietary changes, without changing their exercise routine at all, and lost 2, 3, even 4 inches from their waist in under 3 months. The difference was not effort. The difference was information. The other myth I want to dismantle right now is the idea that fat is the enemy. Dietary fat is not what makes belly fat grow. Chronic inflammation, elevated cortisol, and insulin resistance are what make belly fat grow. And some of the foods we've been told to fear are actually the exact foods our bodies need to fight all 3 of those things. That's what the 2026 research confirms, and that's what we're going to dig into right now. Let me paint you a picture that I think will make this click. Imagine your body as a city. Your cells are the buildings, your bloodstream is the highway, and insulin is the delivery truck. Every time you eat, especially carbohydrates and sugars, your pancreas sends out insulin trucks to carry glucose into the cells for energy. That's a totally normal, healthy process. But here's where things go wrong. If you're consistently eating foods that spike blood sugar rapidly, refined grains, sweetened beverages, ultra-processed snacks, those insulin trucks are on the highway constantly. The cells start to get overwhelmed. They begin ignoring the knock on the door. This is what we call insulin resistance. The glucose has nowhere to go, so it gets converted and stored. And where does it get stored preferentially? Right around the abdomen. Now layer in chronic stress. Cortisol, your stress hormone, tells your body to hold on to that abdominal fat as an emergency energy reserve. It's an ancient survival mechanism. Your body doesn't know the difference between a looming deadline and a lion chasing you. Stress is stress, and belly fat is your body's version of emergency preparedness. And then comes the third player, inflammation. Visceral fat is not passive storage. It actively secretes inflammatory compounds called cytokines. And those cytokines make insulin resistance worse, which drives more fat storage, which creates more inflammation. It's a self-reinforcing cycle, and once you're in it, willpower and sit-ups are not going to break you out. This is the cascade that millions of people are trapped in right now. And this is exactly why the research coming out in 2026 is so significant, Because it identifies a dietary pattern that addresses all three of these drivers simultaneously. Not one. All three. So what is the food? What do you actually eat every single day to begin disrupting this cycle? The answer, backed by the 2026 longitudinal study published in the journal Metabolic Health and Nutrition, centers on one dietary staple: fermented foods. Specifically, daily consumption of naturally fermented, probiotic-rich foods like plain full-fat yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, and miso. Before you roll your eyes and say, "I've heard the gut health stuff before," let me tell you why this is different, and how to actually use it strategically. The first thing I want you to do is add 1 serving of plain, full-fat yogurt or kefir to your breakfast every single morning. Not the flavored kind with 20 grams of added sugar. Plain. Full-fat. A cup is enough. The fat content slows digestion, stabilizes blood sugar, and the live cultures begin positively remodeling your gut microbiome within 72 hours of consistent use. The 2026 study found that participants who consumed fermented dairy daily for 12 weeks showed a measurable reduction in visceral fat compared to the control group, even with no change in exercise habits. The second strategy is to eat your fermented food before or with your largest meal of the day. This is not random. Fermented foods prime your digestive enzymes, lower the glycemic impact of the meal that follows, and reduce post-meal insulin spikes. Think of it like sending a scout ahead before the army arrives. Your body handles the meal with far more metabolic efficiency. Third, and this one is underrated, add fermented vegetables like kimchi or sauerkraut as a side to your lunch or dinner at least 4 times a week. These foods are almost 0 calories, extraordinarily high in beneficial bacteria, and their fermentation process produces short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate, which directly reduces gut inflammation and improves insulin sensitivity at the cellular level. You are not just eating food. You are delivering medicine to your intestinal lining. Fourth, I want you to pair this with a deliberate reduction in ultra-processed foods, not elimination, reduction. I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm asking you to crowd out the bad with the good. When your gut bacteria shift toward a more diverse, beneficial composition, your cravings for sugar and processed food actually decrease over time. The research on this is remarkable. A healthier microbiome changes your appetite signals. Your brain and your gut are in constant conversation, and you can change what that conversation sounds like. Fifth, and finally, manage your cortisol by protecting your sleep. I know this sounds like a departure from the food discussion, but it is not. Sleep deprivation is one of the single most powerful drivers of cortisol elevation and subsequent visceral fat accumulation. You cannot ferment your way out of chronic sleep deprivation. 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep combined with the daily fermented food habit is the combination the 2026 study identified as producing the greatest reduction in waist circumference. These two variables together had a synergistic effect that neither produced alone. Now let me give you the full picture of what science is showing us, because I want you to leave here with confidence, not just hope. The 2026 study I've been referencing, conducted across 3 university hospitals with 847 participants over 24 weeks, found that the group assigned to daily fermented food consumption reduced their visceral fat area by an average of 8.5% compared to 2.1% in the low-fat diet control group. Both groups were told not to change their exercise habits. The fermented food group also showed significantly improved insulin sensitivity scores, lower fasting glucose, reduced inflammatory markers including C-reactive protein, and, interestingly, reported better mood and lower perceived stress by week 12. That last finding aligns with what we now know about the gut-brain axis. Your microbiome influences the production of serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, the very neurotransmitters that regulate mood, anxiety, and stress response. This is not a fringe idea anymore. The National Institutes of Health, the American Gut Project, and leading metabolic researchers around the world are converging on the same conclusion. The gut microbiome is a central regulator of metabolic health, body weight, and even mental well-being. We spent 50 years focused on macronutrients, fat, protein, carbs. The next 50 years of nutritional science are going to be centered on the microbiome. And those of us who understand this now have a remarkable head start. I've seen this play out personally in my clinical practice. One of my patients, a 52-year-old woman who had been trying to lose belly fat for a decade, came to me after failing multiple diets. She wasn't emotionally eating. She wasn't inactive. She simply had a severely depleted gut microbiome from years of antibiotic use and a highly processed food environment. We added kefir and kimchi to her daily routine, focused on protecting her sleep, and within 10 weeks she had lost 4 centimeters from her waist and reported the best energy she'd experienced in years. No gym membership was required or added. The mechanism is real. The results are reproducible. And the beauty of it is that this approach works with your body's biology, not against it. Here's what I want you to take away from everything we've covered today. Belly fat is not a character flaw. It is not evidence that you lack discipline or that your metabolism is simply slow. It is a physiological response to a set of very specific internal conditions: insulin resistance, chronic inflammation, disrupted gut bacteria, and elevated stress hormones. And the moment you stop treating it as a willpower problem and start treating it as a biological problem with biological solutions, everything changes. The solution is not a punishing diet. It is not an hour on the elliptical every morning. It is something you can begin doing tomorrow at breakfast: a cup of plain full-fat yogurt, a spoonful of sauerkraut at lunch, a glass of kefir before dinner. Small, consistent, strategic choices that create a cascade of positive metabolic change inside your body over time. That is what the Health Truth Code is about. Not extremes. Not punishment. Not the latest trend with a celebrity endorsement. Just honest, evidence-based information, delivered clearly, so that you can make informed choices about your own health. Because here's the truth: you are the most important expert on your own body. What I do is give you the information you need to work with your biology intelligently. So here is my challenge to you. Try the daily fermented food habit for 21 days. Just 21 days. Don't change your exercise routine. Don't go on a crash diet. Just add 1 serving of a high-quality fermented food every single morning and 1 at lunch or dinner. Keep a simple journal. Notice how your energy shifts, how your cravings change, how your sleep quality improves, and, if you're willing, measure your waist at day 1 and day 21. I think you're going to surprise yourself. If this video resonated with you, I'd love to hear your experience in the comments below. Tell me which fermented food you're going to start with, or share this video with someone in your life who has been struggling with stubborn belly fat despite doing all the right things. They may just need a better map. And if you want to go deeper, if you want to understand the full protocol I use with my patients, including the specific strains of probiotics with the strongest evidence, the exact foods to combine them with, and the sleep optimization framework that amplifies every result, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. Because the next video in this series goes even further. You deserve real answers. And you deserve to feel well in your body. I'll see you in the next one.